Last-minute bargain hunters, listen up. It is not too late to get your hands on some merchandise featuring Russian President Vladimir Putin. Maybe some cologne, maybe a calendar featuring him working out. CNN's Matthew Chance has a virtual shopping list of ways that Russians are adding some more Putin to their lives.
For fans of Vladimir Putin, there's no shortage of stuff with the Russian president's image all over it. These Putin t-shirts have been around for a while, but they're still popular New Year's gifts.
All right, so this is the most popular one. It's a Sami Populani t-shirt, да?
Одна из самых популярных.
No, okay. So как хорошо продаются? How well do these t-shirts sell в России?
Продаются очень хорошо.
They sell really well. Mainly tourists buy them, but our compatriots buy them as well. They love Putin.
Путина все покупают хорошо.
Despite a deep economic crisis and international isolation over the wars in Ukraine and Syria, Putin's ratings are doing well too.
So what about spending the entire year with President Putin? Well, that's what this 2016 Putin calendar is promising, with every month revealing a carefully chosen image of the Russian leader. This one has him in Siberia with a horse in the forest. Here he's smelling a flower, and this third one over here, he's working out in the gym. But photographs aren't all you get with this calendar. You get Putin's words of wisdom too. Some are characteristically hard-line, like this one for the month of October. No one will succeed in gaining military superiority over Russia, Putin says. Others hint at a softer side. Dogs and I have very warm feelings for one another, says the Russian leader for November. One group of Putin supporters has put together an entire book of Putin's best-known remarks and one-liners, publishing a limited edition, which is set to go on sale next year. The book's called Words Changing the World, and its publishers say it makes the perfect holiday gift for patriotic Russians. And if reading Putin isn't enough, you can now smell him too, with a new men's fragrance that's just hit the shops here in Russia. All right, well, here it is. It's called Leaders Number One, but make no mistake, with the profile of Vladimir Putin on the side and the words inspired by Vladimir Putin, it's pretty clear which leader they're referring to. Now, the advertising bump says that it smells of citrus fruits and pine needles, a mixture of hard and soft, just like the President Putin himself. So I suppose I should give it a try, shouldn't I? Let's have a smell.
Oh, do you like it?
I'm impartial on it, but I can see how it wouldn't be to everybody's tastes.
Matthew Chance, CNN, Moscow.
Impartial, that's hilarious. Okay, so while Russians are snatching up all things Putin, what can some of the U.S. presidential hopefuls learn from that to help sell their brand to the American public? Branding expert Martha Pease is joining us now to talk about this. And Martha is the author of Think Round, and she's the CEO of DemandWorks.com. Okay, Martha, thanks for being with us. This is a really fun segment to do with you. And we want to start with Donald Trump. He seems to have a bit of a Putin-like branding edge. He's got a lot of products on the market, ties, cologne as well. How do the other candidates compete against his brand?
Well, you're absolutely right, Brianna. Nice to be here. Trump has a lot in common, I think, with how Putin is approaching his electorate. Now, you know, what Putin's doing, it's such an interesting piece that you just showed with what Matthew was describing in Russia. Putin is really getting to something very important in the Russian psyche, which is this you know, feeling it may be a hangover from the Cold War and that humiliation. It may relate to the economic troubles of today and their lack of presence on the world stage that they perceive. But Putin is really being kind of the leader, the front man for reasserting a very defiant and strong and hearty attitude for Russians. at a time when they feel they probably are feeling the need to have that kind of leadership both internally and on the world stage. So I think that there are a lot of interesting similarities actually between Putin's branding and the strength of his branding and what Trump is trying to actually communicate to the American people in slightly different terms. But Trump is equally as defiant. He's certainly projecting a strong man image, and he's talking to Americans at a time when many Americans feel that their leadership in the world and the value of the American brand, so to speak, is not as strong as it's been in the past. So there are some similarities, and I think that the Putin example is a strong one.
So I wonder, we see some of the candidates, and there's certainly merchandising. Hillary Clinton has a lot of merchandise that is available for purchase, that is pushed out by her campaign. Does merchandising really help build the brand? Do you see any candidates who aren't taking advantage of it enough? Or is it just sort of, maybe it's not that big of a deal, it's not that important?
Well, if merchandising is a piece of a larger strategy, a larger branding and communication strategy, then merchandising can play a very important role in helping to keep the brand visible and present. I mean, as soon as you are not in the public eye, you start to run the risk, at least, of losing ground with voters, with people. And so the merchandising component of an overall brand strategy can be very critical. And today, the merchandising component is not just about a t-shirt or a hat. It's also about what happens digitally. It's about what happens with content. And so merchandising can actually take on a more important role than it has in the past. So the fact that both Trump, Clinton, and some other candidates have been using merchandising well, I think speaks importantly to what they're trying to accomplish with their brands.
It's pretty simple when you talk about a brand. You think of Donald Trump, he has the Make America Great Again hat. You think of President Obama back in 2008, there was the Hope poster. These are pretty simple concepts that get across to voters. Are there any candidates that you're seeing, maybe Hillary Clinton, maybe Jeb Bush, who aren't really creating a brand where if you said to voters, hey, what do you identify this candidate with, they wouldn't really be able to kind of give that one-liner?
Right. Well, I think the polls are giving us some of that answer, which is the strongest brand is certainly Trump's brand. And so I would say that the other candidates are not grabbing that opportunity as strongly or as wisely maybe as Trump has. And there's been, I mean, it's self-evident that Trump understands branding in a way that probably most other candidates don't. But beyond that, the Make America Great Again and certainly Obama's message of hope, what they share in common is a very aspirational and emotional connection to what's going on with the voters. Those branding platforms, those branding taglines are very much about the people. They're not as much about the candidate. And I think the power of really sophisticated branding comes from making a connection with people that relates to what their emotional drivers are in whatever the arena is. In this case, we're talking about the election. And I think other candidates are not doing that as well. We talked last week about Jeb Bush and Ben Carson and a few other candidates just not having a strong positioning around what it is they want to connect to with voters.
All right, Martha Pease, thank you so much. That was really fascinating to discuss that.
Pleasure. Thanks, Brianna.